Well, yesterday, in the first segment of our three-part series on the status of modern communication service in rural Montana, Chief Political Reporter Mike Dennison looked at access to high-speed internet. And tonight, he examines cell phone coverage and tells us, for starters, that the coverage maps aren't what they seem.
These are coverage maps from the big mobile phone companies showing what their networks supposedly cover in Montana. But they're not always accurate as far as what actually works in the hinterlands.
You know, the big carriers want to cover the corridors, the highways. They don't get off of the highways much. And that's where we're lacking is, you know, we have people that live several miles from a highway and they can't get cell service at all.
Triangle Communications in Havre is one of only 2 rural telecoms in Montana that still offers cell service. Most co-ops have abandoned cell service because it's expensive to maintain equipment and keep up with changing technology.
Every tower costs about $500,000. Then you've also got the fiber, because that tower doesn't work by magic, and that's anywhere from $11,000 to $30,000 a mile to put in.
So most Montana cell customers must rely on the big carriers like Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T, or at the least use part of their network. These carriers install a tower where the traffic can pay for it, and that often means not enough towers in rural Montana. Paul Tuss is Executive Director of Bear Paw Development in Havre, which recruits businesses to the Highline and pushes for better telecom service in the area.
It doesn't matter what carrier you have, for the most part. There's simply not enough towers in our region to make sure that if you're traveling from Havre to Malta or from Malta to Glasgow or wherever, that you have adequate enough coverage to make sure that along the entire route that you're covered.
T-Mobile, which entered Montana in 2017, told MTN News it continues to build out its network in Montana and that its just-approved merger with Sprint should enhance that effort. Federal funds are financing new fiber optic cable in Montana, which is needed to serve cell phone towers. But very little in federal funds is going to build out new cell service. It's also difficult to know the precise areas of need for cell coverage. Federal Communications Commission data say 98% of Montanans have access to adequate cell service, but anyone in the business knows those data, which come from the carriers, are not accurate.
Right here, they have this area saying we have cell service. And I can tell you right now, Mike, depending on how I hold my mouth, depends on whether this thing works or not. Now, they say we're not 5G everywhere in the country, which I think is a goal we ought to go to, but we can't forget about rural America. A lot of places in rural America, we got no G, and we've got to get that fixed.
Tester is co-sponsoring a bill to require better mapping by the FCC so money can be directed to the right places. Yet even with better maps, telecom providers, big and small, face tough choices on where to invest limited funds.
Building out these networks is expensive, right? And if you got to make some tough decisions about where you're making money, and unfortunately, because of the rural nature of Montana, a lot of consumers are left in alert.
So if we're going to wire up more of rural Montana for cell coverage or high-speed internet, who is going to pay for that? Tomorrow, we'll take a closer look at that discussion. In Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
And tomorrow will be the final segment of Mike's series, and you can see all his reports on our website on the status of high-speed internet and cell service in rural Montana.